Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel once again. So today I am going to be working on installing the irrigation in the garden, which I am so thrilled about. If you guys have been following and watching any of my other gardening videos, you know that I have been struggling so much with how to water my garden because of the size. I wasn't sure what would be the best way due to the size of the garden, if that makes any sense. Um, I was planning on getting by with some tripod sprinklers, and so at the end of last year, when everything went on sale, I went ahead and bought two of the big tripod sprinklers, and I didn't even think of it, I just kind of put them in the barn, and it was the end of gardening season. So it kind of went out of sight, out of mind, and I couldn't wait to set up my sprinklers and have irrigation in the garden this year. Because if you watched my other videos, you know that my tomatoes suffered rot, blossom end rot last year. And I know that it was because they just couldn't get enough water, so they had no way to absorb the nutrients that it needed from the ground because there wasn't enough water. So I was trying to water them with a hose, which is really hard to drag a hose down a 70-foot row. And I tried using like a 3-gallon watering can, but again, with that many, I did my tomato plants 12 inches apart last year. So 70 tomato plants watering with a 3-gallon can. I just could not get them enough water. Plus we have really sandy soil here, so the water does just go right through, which is a challenge as well. So I finally came up with a solution, and I cannot wait. I have everything. I ordered everything, so I could not find this locally. I checked, could not find it local, so I had to order off the internet. I got everything off of Amazon. You could order direct from the company, but I found that Amazon was cheaper, and I figured that I might get it faster that way. Wasn't sure. So, I will show you what exactly the water method that I'm going to be using is. It is drip tape, not drip line, but drip tape. That's a very important thing if you have a garden that is very large. Drip line is the 1/4-inch tubing, and from what I read, it doesn't really work well over a 30-foot span. So obviously I have 10 70-foot rows, so I need about 700 foot just in my rows, not to mention the distance going, from the hose over to the garden and then the main line that goes across each row. So I figured that is not going to work. The sprinklers that I bought did not work because we only have the one well. The water out in the barn is piped over there underground from the house. So our well is all the water in the house, and then it goes all the way out to the barn. And so by the time it gets to where I can use it, even though we have a huge pump up in the well house, it's not enough. By the time it gets out to the barn, there's just apparently not enough pressure. It barely ran the one sprinkler, and it would only do one circle and then quit on me, and it wouldn't keep going round and round. And I tried all the different settings. I couldn't get it, and it wouldn't even water a quarter of the garden. So that was a big no. And I tried the oscillating back and forth sprinklers because I had a couple, and I thought, well, maybe those don't require as much PSI to work, and I could just move them a couple times or whatever. But no, it could not do even a quarter of the garden. So sprinklers I knew were out, and the drip line, or the drip lines with the 1/4-inch tubing, I was like, that'll be it, right? And then I was reading about it, and no, it can't go that much of a distance. So I was starting to get frustrated, and I thought, you know, I'm not the only one with a garden this size, so there's got to be a way. And then I learned about drip tape, and I was like, well, what's the difference, other than just looks? And apparently, you can go like thousands of foot with drip tape for whatever reason. It comes in a roll, and I'll show you that. It's flat, and when it fills up with water, it puffs up like into a tube shape, and it comes with done holes, and you can get different lengths, every 6 inches, every 12 inches, every like 16, 18, 24, depending on your needs. So I went ahead and got the one with holes every 6 inches. I thought that that would be great for my circumstances, and I actually have quite a bit more than I'm going to need for my garden. So I have room to expand without having to make a bunch of more purchases after I get the garden going. I'll have probably 300 foot left of the drip tape. I'll have quite a few feet of the starter, the main line, which is a 1/2 inch tubing. And I'll have end caps left, and yeah, I'll have all the pieces left, because you can't just order them individually on Amazon. And where you can do that, it's not economical to do that. So I got like packs of things that I really didn't really need more than 1 or 2 or whatever it was. So anyways, I'm really, really looking forward to getting this installed. I do have the wood chips on the garden, but it is the first year with the wood covering, and because we have sandy soil, there's just not a lot of nutrients in the soil right now. There's not a lot to keep it wet, to retain moisture. And I think that as the years go by and the wood chips break down, and I add more mulch and compost and things like that, that the soil will get better and better and hold more water. And it's always going to be sand, and sand is great for a lot of things. I don't have to worry about root rot and things like that some other people might have to deal with in their more wet climates. So anyways, I'm ready to get started. I can't wait to install this. I don't think it's going to take super long, but I have never done this before. But it seems pretty easy, and I've done, in our last home when we had raised beds, we did drip line, so I'm assuming it's pretty similar. And yeah, but let's go ahead and check out all of my parts that I am using for my garden over here. Alrighty, so this is all I'm gonna need to get water to my entire garden, which doesn't really look like a lot, but this is like going to be a lifesaver. Okay, so I'm gonna run a hose over to this corner of the garden. This is the corner closest to the water that's connected to the house. And at the house, I am going to connect this Y here so that I can still use a hose for other things, like over at the fire pit and things like that, if I need to run a hose around to the front yard. So this, I will put a hose on it sometime just for those needs. And then this side is going to be to the irrigation. So this little device here I already screwed on is a pressure regulator. So this just ensures that there is not too much pressure going to the drip tape. So I don't think that that's going to be a super big problem for me, but I wanted to be safe and be careful, and so I went ahead and got that. Now also I'm going to need a reverse flow stopper, or whatever it's called, that I will also put on here, and that just prevents anything from that goes into the line not to come up into the pipes in my house. It will only allow water to travel out and not back up into the pipes. So if there's dirt or any sort of clog or whatever that could get into the line, that it's not going to go back up into my pipes to the house. So I don't have that. It was like a super long back order to get that, and I thought next time I'm at Lowe's, I'll go ahead and grab one. I'm pretty sure I could find one there. I've found them there before, so as long as they're in stock, I know they carry them. So I'm going to screw this up into the house, and then I am going to just put my garden hose onto here and run my garden hose up to this corner of the garden. And then I will go ahead and run my main line across the end of all 10 rows, which is this. This is 1/2 inch tubing. You can get this from your local store usually. This is pretty easy to find, so you might be able to find it locally at your local hardware store or whatever if they sell irrigation stuff. But I went ahead and got this on Amazon. I forget how big of a roll it is. I want to say it's like 25 feet. It could be 50, I don't even know. But it's probably at least 50. But it's going to be more than what I need, and I am just going to run this from, like I said, this corner all the way down to the other corner, and then these are end caps. I will put one end cap at the end, and all of my garden lines are going to come off of this. So I will have 10 holes poked in here at the end of each row, and then I will run my drip tape off of this main line, and this will go at the end so that water isn't spurting out the end. So it's just a little cap. And let's see, this goes on the other end of this line. These are little push-on fittings that make it so you can connect this plastic tubing, 1/2 inch tubing, to a regular garden hose. So I will only need one of these. I'll have a couple extra for other things. And these, again, I have a lot extra because it just happened to come in this size of package, and I thought, well, I can use them for other things, I'm sure, sometime. But these are valves that go from this 1/2 inch tubing to the drip tape. So the drip tape goes over here, and this side pokes into here. And then I can turn each line on and off if I only want to water a specific line. Maybe I don't have anything growing in one line at a time, at a certain time. Then I can shut all those off if I want to. And this is the little tool that I am going to use to poke the holes in the tubing. So hopefully that's not too challenging. And these are the little end caps, or whatever you want to call it, the end stopper thingies for the drip line, the drip tape. So I got a bunch of those. Those will go one at the end of each row. These I didn't order. I already had a bunch of packs of these, but I thought I might need to use them. So I just have some of these stakes to make sure my lines stay where I want them. And then this is a 1,000-foot roll of the drip tape. So I will hopefully be able to roll that out without too much fuss. And I think that's pretty much it. That's all of the stuff that we need. All right, so first things first, I will walk over here to the main hose thingy on the house and put this little Y connector on there. Now you can also put your timer if you want to set a timer to water your garden at a specific time. You can put that on at this point as well, but I do not think that gardens need watered a ton, and I think a lot of people overwater their garden personally, so I don't feel the need to put it on a timer at this point. I do have one in the garage, but I probably won't use it because I will just check and see if I feel like it needs water, and I will turn it on myself. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on. Alright, so there we go. So now I'm just going to run my normal garden hose along the back of the house so it's nice and tidy and out of the way, and I will run it all the way to the garden. Alright, so I got the hose over here, and I put a little stake there just to hold it where I wanted it. And now I'm going to connect this hose connection to my 1/2 inch drip line, the main line. So these specific ones say twist the collar clockwise, firmly push the tubing over the barb, and then twist the collar counterclockwise to secure it. So Sounds pretty easy. I'm just going to open this up and put it on. Alright, so this is what it looks like. You can completely take the pieces apart. It says to heat up the line if you need to, so if I'm struggling too much, I think I have to get it over this little barb here. Alright, so we got that on. Hopefully it's on there good and doesn't leak, but I guess we'll find out, won't we? So I'm going to go ahead and screw this part onto my garden hose and then run this line across the front of the garden. Alright, I'm going to grab some stakes and one of these end plugs. Grab one of those. Bring these stakes over there. So I have, right here is where my hose is, and I have this kind of strung temporarily all the way across the end of each row. And over here at the end, I will cut this excess off. As you can see, I'm going to have a lot, pretty good amount left. So I will pull this. I don't need to have it exact because I could always add on or cut it off or whatever. I just need to not have a bunch in my way. And then this is that end cap that I showed you. So I will just cut this somewhere in here, and then we will go ahead and put that stopper on. Alright, I got my main line all in place. At the end of every walkway, I went ahead and used those spikes, and I put 3 in there to kind of hold it in place and to reduce the risk of tripping on it. And it comes down to this last row where I have my end cap. Now, this just slipped on and it was really easy to put on, so I'm wondering if it's the wrong size. I feel like the water pressure could just push it right off, but maybe not because of the pressure regulator. It's not enough pressure to push it off. I guess we'll see. If all else fails, I guess I'll just have to get a different size or tape it. Who knows? But I think I'm hoping anyways that it'll be all right. But that's what it looks like now. So now we can go ahead and get our lines going down the garden. So this is what the valves look like that we are going to attach to our main line. So this pointy little part here is what we're gonna stab into the main 1/2-inch tubing that we just installed. And then this side here is much like the other fitting we put on. And then this valve will be on off for every single row, which I absolutely love. This is the tool. We got this at Lowe's few years ago when we did the drip line, and this will hopefully work for me. My husband did the last lines, so hopefully I don't have too much trouble poking through the plastic, but I'm gonna go ahead and use this pokey thing and poke a little hole in that main line, and then we will push this fitting on. Alright, so that is what it looks like on. That actually was really easy, so that's nice. This actually worked really easy. This fitting was much harder to put in, but it just took some finagling and wiggle, push, and it went in after about a minute and a half. So now this valve is ready. I can plug in my drip line and run it all the way down this first row. However, I am going to go ahead and run all these valves first, and then I will probably request help to unroll this drip tape because it is 1,000 foot and I don't want to get all tangled up in it. Alrighty. So that was the easy part. This is the harder part. Alright. And then it goes in easy. Alrighty, so there is all of our valves. And now we are ready to go ahead and run our drip tape down each row. So at the end of the row, I cut this with a utility knife or a box cutter or whatever, some kind of knife or scissors. And I tried to cut it a little bit extra, and I cut between the holes. You can see that I've got, right here's one of the holes, and here's one of the holes. So they're about every 6 inches. So I cut right before this last hole, because I can't fold this up with a hole right there because they're kind of reinforced. So I cut right before the hole, like say right here, and then I'm able to go ahead and fold that. So that is what I have done. I cut this and then fold it up however much you have. So you take this little end cap, and you can see that it's kind of smaller on one side and bigger on the other. So if you cut where this is too thick for this to fit through. So you can't have a hole at the end, if that makes sense to you. And then you slip this on the small side first. And I didn't really allow myself enough room on this one. But you push it on and then fold your line up and press it back into the to this piece right here. Kind of fold it up into itself and then pull this back tight onto itself. So now you can see that it's crimped in there, and I could easily just pull this off, but it just sits in there like that. And then I'm just gonna kind of put it where I want it to be, and I'll use one of my little stakes to hold it there in place, and then it's all set. This one I allowed a lot more space, and it was much easier to get this piece on. So I really recommend, say if this was about where I was going to end it, to cut it right before the hole, and so that you have lots of extra to fold it in here. It makes it much easier to get it folded and put on there correctly if you leave yourself extra space. But you cannot end like after the hole, because where the hole is reinforced. It's just too thick to fit in here, so you can't end on a hole. Cut it right before the last hole that you have. All right, it is about 9:30 at night now, and the sun is going down. It's still hot and humid, but it is a lot better without that sun on you. I have finally got, I had to take a break because my husband's cutting hay, so I've been running him food and drinks every so often and checking in on him to make sure everything's okay. And I had to make a run to the gas station and fill up the diesel cans. So it took me a little bit longer to get it done because I was taking breaks and not just doing that, but I got all 10 of the lines ran. It looks cool already. So happy. Let's just hope it works. I have the first two in place, and kind of tacked down with those little stakes. And I put the one with the corn and jalapenos in there real quick. I don't know why, I just felt like doing that one, getting it all in place, but I didn't put stakes in there. I ran out of stakes on me, so I got to run into the barn and get some more stakes. And I'm gonna at least get everything set where it's supposed to be and stake the end. I'm not sure how many more stakes I have. If I have enough, I'm gonna put it, I'd like to put at least one down the middle and then one at the end. And then I'm going to try it out. And I'm hoping I have enough time before it gets dark to try it out with you guys so you can see. But I don't know if you'll be able to see it unless it like runs for a little bit. You know what I mean? So if not, you will see me back here tomorrow where I test it out and show you guys. I'll leave it run for like an hour and show you guys kind of what it looks like, because you'll be able to see where it's wet and how it's doing. And I'm gonna go ahead and get those stakes so I can get this done, and I just want to make sure I don't have any leaks and that it's working, and I can't wait to see it actually going and working. I'll be so relieved and so happy. Oh, and there is 2 does over there in the field grazing, it looks like. And there's another deer over there. Deer are coming out this time of night. Oh, so excited. All right, you guys, it's been a little bit and I have been using the irrigation now. And one thing I forgot to mention and is quite important is that when you lay your tape down, you want to make sure that you have the holes upward. So the pre-done holes in your tape, make sure that those are pointing upward. Mine, and I think a lot of brands, put stripes on their side. The side that should go up probably has stripes on it. So just keep that in mind when you install your lines. Luckily, if you did it wrong, it's pretty easy to fix because the fittings are all just pushed on, so it's not a big deal. Also, my lines that I bought you're able to bury them. So I actually decided the next day, I was noticing that the lines were kind of wanting to bump up, and I didn't have enough stakes to hold them in place how I would like to have them. So it was kind of bothering me. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to bury them under my wood chips. I also read that sometimes birds and pests and stuff, small animals, might mess with your lines because they will see that there's water and they might try to chew them to get to the water, say like a squirrel or something. So I thought it would be safer for the lines as well, and they won't be in the direct sunlight too. So I decided to go ahead and bury them in pretty much every row except for the onions. And that is just because I already had all these plants going by the time I put my line in. Ideally, it'd be a lot easier to do if I had put the irrigation in before, but that wasn't the case for this year. So also, I had mentioned when I was installing it that I thought this end cap on the main line was too loose, and so it was leaking, and I went ahead and put some silicone on it, and that's working out pretty decent so far, but we will see long term. I don't know if that'll work. I think it'll get me through the season at least, and I'll be more concerned with it next year, maybe replacing that part or whatever. So you'll notice that the water comes out extremely slow. So I just turned it on so that you guys could kind of see. Don't expect for it to just come pouring out like a sprinkler. It is dripping very slow. All right, so as far as watering time, I'm watering them for quite a long time. About 2 to 3 hours seems to provide enough water for them, and I really only do that every few days. So like every 2 to 3 days, I am turning it on, and so far everything seems good. I'm going to keep up with that schedule, and as long as the plants are looking healthy and looking like they're getting enough water, I'm going to go ahead and keep with that schedule. Um, I think that that is supplying them with enough water. I don't want them just sitting in wet dirt all the time. Like I said earlier in the video, we do have sandy soil here, so it drains really fast, so I don't really have that to worry about. But I don't want to overwater them. We typically get a good amount of rain here in northern Michigan, but so far this summer, well, we got a good amount of rain and everything grew really nice. But then we kind of got a big drought time, and so everything got really, really hot, and it was really humid here. But we didn't have rain for a very long time, and still now we are not getting much for rain. We After the kind of dry spell, you could say, we had rain maybe 2 times, and they were decent rains, but not enough to get us back on track as far as, all of our grass is brown and burned. Our pastures are looking really bad. They're not growing back. And since we cut our hay, the hay just is not really growing yet. So we're kind of got our fingers crossed for a second cutting at this point. So we're not really getting rain, but as you can see, the plants in the garden are doing great. So far, everything is green and looking healthy and growing. So I'm really happy with how the water irrigation system is doing so far. And if anything comes up and I have any complaints, then I'll be sure to let you guys know. But so far, this seems to be a really, really good way to water a large garden. So, and even if you have a garden larger than mine, this should still work for you. It's supposed to be good for thousands of feet, and I have 700 feet here. So, I hope that you guys found this video helpful if you're struggling with irrigation in your garden. It's fairly inexpensive, and I use that term loosely because price for everyone is different. For me, it was kind of painful clicking that purchase button because to me it is fairly expensive. I can't remember the total, but I know that I paid probably roughly $250 for all of the line and everything, all of the parts. Yes, I have extra parts. I have extra line. So, is it expensive? Is it cheap? I don't know. That kind of depends on you and your situation. To me, it was probably affordable to a lot of people. To me, yeah, it's not the funnest thing to buy. But I'm glad that I have it, and it seems to be working great. So I hope that this was helpful to you guys. If you have any other questions about it, please let me know. And I am so glad that you guys could join me today. So make sure that you guys subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video.